Welcome to the I Am Series Women's Empowerment Session 2021. Are you ready to have some fun? Well, sit back and relax as we talk about, are you ready for your next chapter? Well, this is our time, this is our turn, and this is our season to embrace the new chapter. Don't forget to purchase your residue-free journals, and also your mugs are still available. All right, well, let's go ahead and introduce your host and co-host for the evening, Reverend Sherry Thomas and Reverend Dr. Marisha Stewart. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, welcome to the June I Am Series Women's Empowerment Session.
Yes.
Woo-hoo. Man, we are 1 year in. We are going into our second year, and it's just been amazing.
Amazing. Such a teachable moment, empowering moment,
Empowering moment. And I love that it's on Fridays. Thank God for Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Yay. What's your song?
What's my song? Oh, Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. They don't do dances like that anymore, but anyway.
Everything is shaking and bumping.
Everything is, but you know what? Before, I would say before I guess our teenage years, there was some times before us where they were shaking too, man.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't invented now.
They were getting it.
Yeah, I seen some Soul Train. I seen some.
Oh yeah.
Seen some Soul Train glimpses. Yeah. So we are so excited for you to hang out with us this afternoon. If this is your first time, welcome. I am Reverend Dr. Marisha, and my co-host is
Reverend Sherry Thomas.
Yay. And so we're delighted that you could just hang out with us tonight. We're just so excited, and we truly believe as we empower you, we are also empowering ourselves as well. Amen. So we always love starting out with our trending topic. And it's interesting. We have a trending topic, but there was some news that came out just today.
What was that? Because I have not been watching the news.
There was some news that came out just today. Derek Chauvin.
Oh, sentenced to 22 years?
Yeah.
I saw it on the news feed.
That came out today. And I guess he would be the first, convicted. And it's just like, man, wow. Didn't think that this day would come. And I'm pretty sure the other police officers are nervous as well, as far as, what their sentencing will be. But, we just have to keep the families in prayer on both sides of the fence, right? Yeah. It's impacted both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
And I know his wife, she divorced him or, put in her papers, but, she's getting the backlash of what her husband did. You know what I mean? So have to keep her in prayer because, she didn't have those same type of feelings. She didn't feel that was really warranted. But as a result of someone else, right, that she was attached to, now she's being attacked, so we just have to keep the families in prayer.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't control what somebody else is thinking or doing.
You cannot.
And unfortunately, when you're attached to someone, that's done something, that's not good, you do get the backlash. And so, yeah, you're right. We need to keep them in prayer, the whole world in prayer.
We do, because we've gone through some stuff this
we have
past 15 months, and that's really our TT for today. That's our trending topic. Is this pandemic, like what will it look like?
Mhm.
You know, what does it look like? Like how different are we from where we were, in
Mhm.
March of 2020?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How are we, how are you different, right? And so you can put that in the comments. How are you different from a little over a year ago? Well, what thoughts are different? What behaviors are different?
Mhm.
What do you think about now that you wouldn't have thought about
Mhm. Mhm.
last
Mhm.
year? Um,
Mhm.
and so that's a thought.
Yeah, it is a thought. We'll never forget what we experienced. We have experienced over the last year. I mean, for our entire world to come to a complete halt, nobody could ever imagine that. Well, I couldn't ever imagine that we would endure something like that, and just the unknown of it. Yet a year and some change later, we're still here, by the grace of God. It's caused so much to change, some changes were drastic and some changes will manifest themselves in days to come, how do how do we respond, to that? And some changes that have taken place are for the good, how do we keep that emotion as well? Um, yeah, change. I hear that song in my head. It's been a long time coming, but a change is gonna come.
Change is going to come. I mean, and even if you think about just, it was predicted though. I don't know if I think it was Bill Gates who predicted that our healthcare system could not handle anything
Mhm,
like this, and it
mhm,
and it and it showed, right? It showed that our, as much money as America has,
yeah,
our system, our country could not handle the pressure of this pandemic that it put on the healthcare system. And
mhm,
about, that's just one facet, right? I mean, that's a huge facet because that is really what um, I would say controls how this thing rolled out, how they could control it even in the hospital,
mhm, mhm,
control outside, and so you think about even with businesses, how businesses had to look at things different, how schools
mhm,
look at things different. See me working in a school, it's just so many different things. And I think about like personally, it's like from a year ago, things that you just did not, well, I can't say everybody didn't. I did. So like I've never liked touching doorknobs,
mhm.
public places. And that's something that I've just have never, I've always either tried to use my shirt, tried to use
Mhm,
my arm.
mhm,
It's just something that unless it has to be one of those brown ones, but I, and I've even taught my son to do that. Like, no, we don't touch doors. Like, mm-mm.
You got the little tool from the Dollar Tree, or you can get it from the Dollar Tree for elevator buttons. It
For
it looks like a
elevator,
little
I
looks like a little looks like a little key, and all you do is just kind of like
I use my. This is what
your elbow.
the elbow,
Do
right?
you use some hand sanitizer on your elbow after?
No, because my elbow is not by my face,
Yeah.
But you just think about, we were thinking about the gas pumps,
Mhm. Oh my God, everything.
the light switches, right? Shopping carts.
Yeah,
It's like grocery stores had to literally provide
yeah,
wipes.
yeah,
They, and if they were out of wipes, they had to provide the spray.
yeah.
Which, but I'm still like, but I have to touch the bottle that everybody's been touching.
Right, right.
Even like you said, elevator buttons. If you TV remotes,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
even restaurants, the menus now are changed. Menus are different, right?
Yeah.
The QR code that you use your phone, and but but the piece that really, I would say, that really God kind of helped me to understand, even in the midst, before the pandemic, the flu was dead, right? Like the flu was a deadly virus that really wasn't talked about a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's been talked about a lot because now it's being compared to the pandemic.
Right.
But when I had looked at the numbers, like typically, so in 2019, 35 million cases. There were 35 million people who had the flu.
Wow.
Right? 16 million went to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
490,000 were hospitalized.
Wow.
And 53,000 deaths. That is significant. And so when you think about how bad the flu was, when we were touching menus, when we were touching light switches, when we were touching doors, right? When we were touching all of these things, even in the midst, God still protected.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He still protected us from danger seen and unseen, even before the pandemic. And so I'm appreciative because even though the pandemic is come and gone, and it
ain't gone yet.
It's going to be waves of it, right? But in the same regard, we still here.
Yeah, by His grace.
We
definitely by His grace. I said that from the get-go that in the midst of it all, He could have chosen to just wipe us all out at the same time, and although it was hectic and although it was tumultuous at times and very challenging and stuff like that, He still allowed the grocery stores to maintain food. He still allowed for our means of communication to still exist. Those are the things that we have to appreciate the Lord for.
Well, technology, I mean, when you look at 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have
what was technology, right?
Right. They didn't have it. So right now, we are kind of almost the Jetsons, where we literally have cell phones where we can see each other. Like we didn't have that. That's a Jetson type of cartoon that we live in right now, where we were privy to, although we may not have been able to visit, we could still see through a phone, you know what I mean? And then we also, another positive is life slowed down. A lot of people had to figure out how precious life is, how short life is, right? And appreciate life. Not to mention, right? Like, not to mention the reduction in carbon emission.
My gosh, yeah.
Over a year.
Right. Anytime the animals can roam the streets freely. I mean, in other countries, I know sheep were like walking down the street, lions walking down the street freely because the humans were indoors.
Even the water.
Yeah.
The waters are even clearer.
Less pollution.
Yeah. Water. I mean, we went to Rehoboth Beach and we were like, oh my goodness, like, when did the water get so clear? But after a year of people, there's no cruise ships. Just for a year, like literally the fish were like, hey, thank you. Right. Yeah. So even in the midst, even Earth, right, got a break.
Earth got a break. The appreciation of nature, I mean, I've seen countless pictures of Great Falls, and that is on my to-do list this summer. But I mean, just, people taking the time to just go locally to some of the beautiful parks that we have, to spend more time in their backyard. I mean, I was looking at something, and I know when the pandemic hit, it wasn't just food and toiletries that were off the shelves. I mean, bicycles disappeared, Peloton bikes and all the exercise equipment disappeared, and folks were putting their patios and stuff together, so that they could spend more time at home. All that stuff is probably now on eBay, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the benefits to it. I mean, if we look at it, it was definitely something something that make us take a step back and look at life and appreciate it a lot more. But
Mm.
it was so good. And for me, everybody's perspective is different, and I get that because it brought along some other things too, more domestic violence, more depression, more anxiety,
Mm.
and all of those types of things as well. But um, all in all, you know, Earth needed a break.
Earth needed Earth. Earth needed a break, and everything within it,
Yeah,
everything,
yeah,
everything God created
yeah.
needed a break.
Mhm,
So
mhm. So I think everything is about perspective, Yeah.
everything is about perception. You are so right. Because we go. I'm gonna tap into that. That right there. I'm gonna tap into.
Perception, perspective, how you see things. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're talking about getting ready, being ready. Are you ready for your next chapter? So I found a short little poem. I always love poems, and I found this one on jollygreets.com. No, I didn't find the author, but it's called New Beginnings. And the
Mhm.
poem says, starting over can be so scary and difficult. The thought of letting the past go and moving on leaves us confused. But the truth is, change is good and change is necessary.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
growth can only occur when we embrace change. New beginnings represent new opportunities. New beginnings are a sign that the universe is giving us a second chance. And we all deserve a second chance. I'm telling you, when I found that, I was like, "Whoa!" What's your thoughts, sir? I'm sure. What's your thoughts?
We all deserve a second, third, and fourth, fifth chance. And I'm glad that we serve a God that gives us all of that, right? Um,
Yeah,
change is inevitable, yet it is good. It causes us to stretch. It strengthens us at the same time.
mhm.
And I'm grateful for a second, third chance. You learn from change,
Yeah,
point blank, period.
yeah. I love the part where it says you growth only happens when you embrace,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Embrace, like how uncomfortable, it can be, right? But at the same
mhm,
time, we never see the end. Only our
mhm,
daddy, only our heavenly father sees the end. And oftentimes when change comes, sometimes there's tantrums. Sometimes we kicking and screaming. Sometimes we,
absolutely.
we act a little ugly. Sometimes we
Mhm,
because it's almost as if I'm going back to the birds. I have birds. I have baby birds on my reef. The birds made a nest, and I got baby birds. And it's almost as if once the baby birds get to a point where it's time for them to fly, and they're pushed out of the nest, it's that feeling of being, even though it's something in me that I have that I can still fly, you push me out and I wasn't ready. You push
yeah.
me out and you didn't tell me first, Daddy. You didn't tell me you was pushing me out. You didn't let me prepare myself. And so as a result, I just feel like I'm drowning, I'm falling, and I don't know what to do. But in
Mm,
the same regard, he's already seen the end.
yeah.
You
That so
know, so that's for me. That I feel like if he's already seen the end, then I can get to a point where I can embrace the change. And it appears, it can get easier, and I don't have to understand why. I don't have to understand when. I don't have to understand how this is all going to pan out, work out, or what he's going to do. I just got to understand that he's leading me to my next chapter.
That comes back to believing and trusting in his word, in him. He said it in Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future that expected end. If you are confident in his word, if you are confident in what he says, then of course, yes, when the change comes, it can get topsy-turvy, right? It can be a little challenging. But if you know his word, your spirit man will settle down, and you will embrace the change. I mean, changes come all the time. Some of them are drastic, like COVID, and then some of them we're able to plan out. However, whatever it is, we just have to go with the flow of God, knowing that he has everything in and under control.
So us knowing him having everything under control, even though we know that oftentimes that still blocks us from knowing that there's another chapter in our lives. So what would you say? What do you feel like that blocks us from knowing, believing that there's another chapter that God has for us?
Well, I wouldn't. Well, the blockage comes with. I mean, we know that there is, as long as you're living, right? There's going to be another chapter. Now, getting to that point is a mindset. Perhaps a blockage could be a mindset, a negative mindset, the fear of failure, just being resistant to that change, just a limited knowledge or understanding of change, and how change is actually not necessarily bad, even though the circumstances could be bad,
right?
But it's not a bad thing. The mindset, if it is something negative, let's just talk about divorce, right? Your mind can always go to the point or fact that, oh man, I gotta get another relationship, or I don't want to be hurt again, and all that other kind of stuff. So that mindset, a negative mindset, fear of failure, those being resistant to it, are some things that can block you from experiencing something that could be wonderful for your life,
Yeah. So like when I was talking about being pushed out of the nest, I was like, I had to write that down. I was like, oh, I might have to be one of my podcast episodes, because that thing got me, because I was pushed. I was pushed out of the nest. I felt violated. I felt violated. And so for me, I think one of the biggest, a big culprit, definitely I can say for myself, is my past. The one thing that God literally had to help me, or he reminded me constantly, is to stop being Lot's wife. And this is
stop looking back.
Yeah. And so this is, I kept being caught in between, where God took me from and where he was leading me to. I was in that in between. And some kind of way, it's easy to get stuck on the past and turn into a pillar of salt, just like Lot's wife. And it's interesting that salt is a preservative, right? So it preserved my past in a way where it kept it current. It wasn't current. But because of me looking back, it blocked me from really being ready for where God was taking me, and I know for myself, it's just, again, it's like that kicking and screaming, that when you don't embrace the change, then you don't understand the growth, especially the spiritual growth
Right.
Is trying to do, because he's always trying to grow us spiritually in some form of fashion,
Yes.
right? Because we don't really always want to deal with our issues. We don't
Right.
want to always deal with our stuff, right? And sometimes, not sometimes, typically other people can see our stuff more than we can, you know.
Mhm.
And then the question is, do you have someone who feels courageous enough to share, to
Right.
tell you what your stuff is,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting. I literally remember I remember sharing with a friend of mine about the divorce, and I don't know what we were talking. We were talking about something, and she said something and it just it struck a nerve, and I was like, and she said something just so simple. She says everybody can make a decision to not want to be in the relationship anymore. That they can make that decision. And I was like, uh, time. I didn't put in all this time. I didn't put in all this work. We've been together for, so I had all these excuses, but she literally said, everybody can decide to change their mind.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't
And
think that was right, but it's
and
so true.
it is.
It's so it's hard truth that I didn't want to. It's not something I wanted to hear, but in the same regard, because then I had to analyze, right, like, and say, well, if so, am I working under the spirit of manipulation?
Mm.
you know um and so I had to recognize areas in my life where I did work in the spirit of manipulation over the years, in order to get what I wanted, right? And so I was like, ugh. But again, when you're talking about that spiritual growth, it leads you to a place of being vulnerable, of being violated, of being in a place where it goes against the grain. But again, God is always trying to do that inner work.
Always,
Yeah.
always, all things work together for the good of them who love Him and are the called according to His purpose. And that part right there. I mean,
It's
the
all.
stretching, the
all.
all things, even those things. Fred Hammond. I was listening to this song, and it's all things work together. I love that song. I was singing a little bit of it before we got on online, but it says, falling apart and tearing at the seams. Tribulation lends a hand, but he's still there. His word doesn't lie. He's still doing things behind the scenes to make things good for you. And if you allow the process, if you go through the process and allow it to do what it's supposed to do, even when it doesn't feel good, and it does not feel good, when you come out on the other side, you look back and you're like, God bless you. You know what you doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just thinking about um the chapter. So even transitioning from one chapter to the other,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it had I know when I'm transitioning, because it gets really kind of crazy, there it's called to me wrestling, like that Jacob and the angel wrestling. Like, God, what are you doing? I mean, what what is this? Why do I feel like this? What is going on? Leaving some things behind, and then you're moving forward, but at the same time, there's that tug, like, oh my God, this is unfamiliar to me. I'm used to being in control, and here you go again, shaking some things up. But God, I trust you. And the blessing in it is that we have a God that never sleeps nor slumbers. We have a God that we can tell him from A to Z. I might not be able to tell the person sitting next to me A to Z, but I can tell him everything. It's gonna stay right there, and he gonna work with me, and I'm gonna work with him, and just beautiful. I mean, the relationship.
Mhm.
I appreciate God so much. I do.
Mhm.
Even in that space,
Mhm.
that friction space. I mean, his word is true. I promise I'll never leave nor forsake you. I'm here for you. I got you,
Mhm.
So it's just having that faith and that trust in him, that even when it is sticky like that,
Mhm.
he knows your heart. He knows who you are,
Mhm.
and he's there for you, Just don't forsake him. If you don't forsake him, he
Mhm.
sure enough ain't gonna forsake you, but don't you forsake him.
Mhm. He loves your flaws.
He loves your flaws
Mhm.
and your honesty,
Yeah. Even though he already knows.
Yeah.
Even though he already knows. But I love how in the movie The Shack, it depicted when they were at the dinner table, the guy asked, "You already know some things about me, so why am I
Mhm.
sharing?"
Mhm.
And the person who was playing the role of God said,
Mhm.
"I just want to hear from you.
Yeah.
I want to hear how you color what you go through. I want to hear how you color what you experience. I want to hear it from you, almost as if I never even knew it beforehand."
Mhm. But God also knows that it'll do something for you to speak it.
Mhm.
It's deliverance for you if you speak it,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Child, help me to.
So what's interesting is going into that next chapter,
Mhm.
it's easy for us to feel like it's not as close as we think it is.
Mhm.
Right. And I know for myself, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Like when I don't see a move of God, when I don't see things manifesting, when I don't see the situation getting better or changes, even small changes, then I develop a perception. I perceive negativity in a way that it makes me doubt, fear, makes me think negative. My mind just goes down this rabbit hole, right? To nowhere, right? Because that's what it does. But it just goes down all of this negativity, and it pulls me away from really believing that I'm next in line, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we're always next in line for a miracle. We're always
Mhm.
next in line for a blessing. But I have to place blame. I gotta place blame on Adam. Thank you, Adam. LOL. Right. But as the human side of me, it brings up its ugly head, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we see things in the natural, and that is our flaw from as humans. It's because of Adam, and Luke already tells us that nothing is impossible with God, but because of that flaw within us, we look at the natural first,
Mhm.
when nothing is impossible, and we
Mhm.
should look at more from a spiritual, supernatural lens, right? More than that natural lens. But I truly believe that when you're close, you typically that's typically the time when you are the most uncomfortable. When,
Yes. Yes.
when you're close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I would dare to say this too. The enemy knows, you know, he knows more about us than we know about ourselves. And so if he can get us to say, I quit,
Mm-hmm.
this is too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I can't do this. Yeah, that's his job to get us to stop. But there's an inner work that God has done and is doing. just like he did, like has done with us going through this whole pandemic thing. Folks have gotten more in his presence. Folks have learned more about themselves. Folks, their relationship with God has been strengthened. And stuff like that. So what are we doing with all that he has put in us during this time frame? Are we just gonna sit on it and stuff like that? The Lord knows the devil knows how strong you are now, right? So going into this next move, are you just gonna throw it all away? You gonna throw all away? Are you gonna throw everything that God has done for you and in you and through you, just to go back out there and have a sit down at a restaurant? I don't go to the movies or whatever. But no, God desires for us to prosper. The enemy knows, and now I need to keep her right where she is. And so I would dare to say, just and agree with you that when I'm closest, it's more uncomfortable. It's the wrestling is taking place. God, I know what your word says. God, my flesh is like tugging me to death, mentally, physically, whatever it is, but I'm gonna stay in your presence. I'm gonna make the choice to stay right here until you bless me. And choose to go forward, kicking and screaming. Perhaps maybe God will have to take his leg or foot and push you into it, but
push you out of the nest.
Yeah, but the choice is just to keep moving forward.
So in moving forward though, I still feel we still limit him in ways.
We do. That's because we're human and we want to be in control of everything. Yeah.
We do limit, and we limit based on our teeny brains. We based on only the things that we know, right? And it's so interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. I wanted more children, and God didn't allow that to happen. And I prayed for it. My son prayed for it. My son gave her a name, drew pictures of the room. I believed, but it did not happen. And I thought that there was a way that God was going to bless me so that could happen. But that's not what he did, because he wasn't using me. So I was limiting God in a way, right? Because I thought he was going to use me. But that's not what God did. God didn't use me. God gave him siblings that didn't come from my womb. And I didn't know I didn't know all of that was going to pan out. I didn't know, that God was going to do it in that way. But that's what we do. We limit based on our experiences, or we limit based on how we think God is going to move. Because we've seen it done it before in other people. We've seen him how he's done it in our lives, but we can't think supernaturally of how he can just create from nothing.
Right. And it doesn't happen the way that you think it should happen,
Yeah.
But yet it still happens. Yeah. And you're still fulfilled in that role as godmother, as school counselor, as mentor, as auntie, as I have
other piece. So here we go. I thought of my way, but you expanded it for me, right? Because being a school counselor, I've been a mom
to multiple children,
so many young people.
Absolutely.
And I didn't have to financially pay anything.
Right.
I had to pay for no diapers. I didn't, but God still gave me that ability to feel right? Like I was in that role, and that's the, I so that's another piece, there when things don't happen the way we want them to happen, and God gives us really what we ask for, but just in a different light.
He does. He does. I have, no children as well, but God has blessed me to raise a few. And
Mhm.
then I have nephews, godchildren,
Mhm.
great nieces. Oh my God, yummy, yummy, yummy.
Mhm.
And I get to give them back to their parents after I spoil them.
Mhm.
But at the same time, and people that I mentor,
Mhm.
you know, and so he fulfills what I think could be a void. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Sure, I would have loved to have one or two. It
Mhm.
didn't happen that way, but he has given me what I needed,
Mhm.
and that nurturing, I have been able to nurture others according to what he's given me. So yeah, we do put the limits on God, and sometimes it's just because we hold on to our will, our strength. This is the way it's supposed to be and stuff like. No, that is why he is God.
Yeah, I truly believe what we perceive is what
Mhm.
we believe, right? And if you're not believing that God has the best for you
Mhm.
in in this moment and in your next chapter, then it's so easy to believe the false narrative and the false beliefs about what reality is.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
and reality is not connected to how we feel,
yeah. Not feeling no emotions.
right? Because those are really, I mean, those could take you, yeah, those are not real. Those are not facts, as Trump would say.
Right.
Facts. So those are not, your emotions are not facts. Because if they were, then if the same person, if multiple people experienced the exact same thing you did, then everybody would feel the exact same way. And that wouldn't happen.
Mm, mm. I
That's
think.
how you know it's not facts. Feelings are not facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. The other day I learned something about perception, where perception is broken down into three parts. So when we have an experience, um, we select things from the experience.
Mhm.
Then we put those things in categories. And
Mm.
then what happens is our subconscious, right, interprets um, those things in those categories, right, and then it applies how it'll play out in our lives.
Mhm.
So like for example, with the disciples when they were in the storm, the disciples took that experience, and what they took from it was danger.
Mhm.
They created these categories of fear, anxiety, and worry. They created all these little categories. And what did they finally interpret for themselves? That we're
Mm.
going to die. And
Mhm.
that's what happens when we perceive things. And I was like, ooh, that's really, so I even thought about with, things that I've experienced where I've kind of, it leads you, unfortunately, to that false narrative and that false
Mhm.
reality. Because when
Mhm.
the disciples were in
Mhm.
the storm, my
Mhm.
is if my God is asleep, if he ain't worried, if he's asleep, I
And
know
I'm on the boat with him.
he getting wet. He Jesus was getting wet now. The water was coming from him. He was getting wet and he was still knocked out sleep.
Right.
If he good, he knows something I don't know. And
Right.
I've been with him, so he my boy. And so yeah, so that's how you could understand that what they perceived, right? This is what they believe because of
Yeah.
how they perceived it. They perceived it negatively. And that's what we do when we develop those false narratives and those false beliefs.
Mhm.
We doubt. We we think negative, we limit God, right?
Mm-hmm.
There, okay, it's another chapter coming, but
Mm-hmm.
add that conjunction in it.
Mm-hmm. As a result of your a result of your experience, another thing that puts limits on God is your expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this did happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting anything else good to kind of like come to me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
think about this, if throw age in it.
Uh-oh.
Right? So if you're at a certain age, how do you see yourself? How do you see your next chapter? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I love to say, if you're not as old as Sarah, then you ain't old enough.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be pregnancy, right?
Right. Well, no, we see that in our society nowadays, the narrative is changing. My mom always says, and I probably said this before, age is just a number. You're as old as you feel. You got 80-year-old women out there bench pressing and stuff. The mindsets of people are changing as it relates to age. It's never too late. Well, maybe biologically some things, but like you said, if you're not as old as Sarah, at that particular point in time, I don't know if I would want to have a baby. but in these days,
pregnant with possibilities.
Right, possibilities.
Right. Yeah. So typically, when you're in your 60s, that's like retirement age. And so if someone wanted to start over, right, you can. If you want to start a new career, you can. If you want to learn something new, you can.
You can.
You can. I love the example of Colonel from Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was 65 years old when he was selling chicken door to door.
Mm. And look,
65 years old. He didn't even get to see the manifestation of how his business was going to grow. So there is no limit to what God can do.
Right.
I mean, there is no limit. So then the question comes to how do we help women get ready for that next chapter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think not just women, but anybody, first of all, you have to understand that as long as you're on this earth, there are endless possibilities. We serve a God that can do the impossible. Mm-hmm. We need to trust him. And, this is an interesting one, but don't be anxious for anything, Don't be anxious for anything. Keep calm, trusting him. Don't be resistant. There is nothing impossible with him. Mm-hmm. If it's supposed to be a part of your life, it will. Mm-hmm. Keep calm. Just go with God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about how would I, what things could I do, right, for my next chapter, and whatever that is, or whatever that is for you. So, it's always good to start with Habakkuk 2:2, writing the vision, making it plain. Everything starts with a vision, and even if it hasn't manifested yet, write it down, and then once you write it down, then walk by faith, not by what you can see or what has already, or what hasn't come to pass yet, right? That is what you should live by. And then try to figure out how to create some new habits that help you walk in faith.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And whatever that is for you, just pray about it. Ask the Lord to help you, because I think that's the working piece. That's the piece that helps you keep that supernatural perception, that supernatural lens of seeing how God sees,
Mhm.
believing
Mhm.
how God believes,
Mhm.
trusting how God trusts, speaking
Mhm.
into existence. But you got to create some type of habits to kind of help you walk
Mhm.
and believe in faith. And then if you need help, seek help, right? So if you're
Mhm.
trying to start a new chapter, and maybe it's a new venture, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a ministry, whatever it is, maybe it's a family, like whatever it is, right? Find support, find
Mhm.
network, right? I think
Mhm.
oftentimes we want to be that superhero. We want to put the S on our chest, but then sometimes, God can use people outside of your circle.
Yeah.
He can. He can use people that you never known. He can find somebody on the internet
Mhm.
met, right? And use them in a way to bless you in your next chapter. And then I think, also you got to move towards your fear. You can't,
Mhm.
you got to move towards,
Mhm.
got to learn how to throw out
Mhm.
the past thoughts, the past experiences, past behaviors, and even some past people.
Mhm.
Throw them out, but you got to move past your fear. I think, as we were talking earlier about the pillar of salt,
Mhm.
it preserves our past in a way like a pacifier.
Mhm.
It's like a security blanket, and it provides sympathy for us when God is trying to get you to stop being Linus from Charlie Brown, holding that dirty, blanket around, because he wants you to spiritually grow and
Mhm.
spiritually grow to where he's leading you in that next chapter. That next chapter is eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard. In that next chapter, right? That neither have entered into the heart of man. In that next chapter, the things that God has already prepared for you, that they're in that next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I was just thinking as you were speaking, it's okay to dream, you know. And so the one thing that I have learned in just within the last 4 years of my life, specifically these last couple of months, I mean, been in church all my life, steps are ordered by the Lord. Um, I've seen God do some amazing things in my life. But I always allowed him pretty much to do the leading, tried to allow him to do the leading.
Mhm.
um, and I realized it is okay to dream. It is okay to dream and dream big. And um, you have examples all around you, folks doing stuff and all that kind of stuff. It could be you,
Mhm.
as well. Don't limit yourself in that regard. So a friend gave me a song that said, "If You Dream," and the words in that song were so powerful to me that that instantly, just listening to it a few times over and over and over, it was like, oh my God, I can dream. I can choose some things, and God, if that door is not supposed to be for me, you close it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but to give yourself that permission
Mhm.
to go ahead on and dream, go ahead and aspire do some big things. It's okay. You know,
Mhm.
it's okay to do that.
It's okay. It is okay to dream big. I know Charles has said to me, if your dream is not big enough, I'm trying to remember how he said it, but if your dream is not big enough, it's like if you're not dreaming big enough that you can't do it on your own, you're not dreaming big enough. Something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So if my dream is something that I can figure out and work out on my own, it's not big enough.
It's not big enough.
But that's the type of God we serve. We serve that type of God that wants us to dream big because he's a big God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is whatever it is that you are desiring in that next chapter. That's the message. Dream big.
Dream big.
Dream, dream big. I see our time is winding down. I got a little quick game before we end. I'll see how many we can do. I found this really cute game called, let's see, can you see it?
Culture tags. Oh, I've seen that on.
So it's hashtags.
Yeah.
Hashtags are, the hashtags are based on different areas. So I found one called church. So they have them on Daily Versus, Twitter. I don't do Twitter. Daily Versus. I was like, I'm gonna see how many we can get. I'm gonna see how many we can get. That's it. So this is the hashtag. Something related to church. You look confused. So let me see what it is. This one is bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Well, where's the why?
I'm sorry. Bless her heart. Bless her heart.
Okay.
Bless her heart. That's what church folks say.
You gotta preach.
You better preach. Is that it? You better.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's it. You got it. You got it. What's
this? The world?
A lot. For God. No. For God. Oh, that's a long one. Let me look. Oh, you ready?
No.
First, giving honor to God, who's the head of my life. Okay, next one. What's a good one? It's a good one. E. What's the E? Everlasting God. I don't know. Let's see.
How do you pick all these hard ones?
Oh, every good and perfect gift.
Oh, Lord. Next.
That's a good one. That's a good one. For no. Fight in Jesus. No.
Something in Jesus.
Something what?
Something in Jesus.
Fix is Jesus. I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna use this one. Fix it, Jesus.
F-I-J.
F-I-J. And people be like, what is that?
Fix it, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, that's a long one. I'm not getting any of these. God is great and
next.
This one is God is good.
All the time.
And all the time.
God is good.
Okay, we'll make this our last one. God
keep my God keep my God
keep my heart. God knows my heart.
He knows my heart. Okay.
God knows my heart. Okay. Mm-hmm. Those were hard, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were hard. But then when you start thinking about it, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You have to think about like church sayings.
But I mean, first of all, you got to program your mind to try not to unscramble the words.
Oh yeah.
The letters. You want to unscramble the letters.
Yeah, you do. So what's your heart message for our audience?
I already said it. Dream big.
Dream big.
And you co-signed it. I mean, change is inevitable, but as we move forward into this next season of our lives, expect
the great.
The great.
Expect the great. Amen.
I'm speaking that over my life right now. Expect the great. Dream big.
So I got one.
No more salt. Don't be looking back.
No more. It's that in between stage. No more salt, right? Let it go. Because as we are writing the vision down, as we are walking by faith, as we are trying to have that supernatural perception that God has, as we're trying to find support if we need support, right? And as we are pushing towards fear, and as God is pushing us out of that nest, right? Because that's what He's doing. He's pushing us out of that nest. I truly believe that we'll be able to turn the page and just embrace that next chapter that God is leading us to. Yeah, I truly believe. And it's about embracing, like we started out with that poem, embracing change, and embracing change that is being pushed out of the nest, pushed out, pushed out. It is okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel violated because God is doing a spiritual work in us, right? And he's already foreseen the end. And so he just knows. He knows. And so I found another poem I wanted to leave with you before we end called New Chapter. And it says, one chapter ends, another one starts. Just like another game of darts. My granddaddy clock is going off. Thank you, Charles. New thoughts take hold, new people speak, past characters play hide and seek. New meals are made, new shows are seen. Forget about life's in between. Fade out the memories, let them go. Pretend you just don't want to know. Tune out the times you once esteemed. Dismiss the dearest dreams you dreamed. Then break the pen that praised her name and brought her honor, glory, and fame. Move on to greet some new pastures. The sky above is just as blue. Transcend the traumas life inflicts and soothe the wounds with gentle licks. Patch up the heart that drips life's blood. Refuse to wallow in the mud. Cherish the chapter that's just begun and close the book on the previous one. Woo! Close the book on the previous one. That right there gets some snaps and some snaps. Man, that was powerful. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We had another great time. We hope you had a great time. And we will see you next time on the I Am series.
Bye, ladies.